Horror movies have long provided audiences with a safe way to experience thrills, fear, and tension from the comfort of our own homes. Yet, more often than most of us probably realize, there are horror movies that have a basis in real life. And as they say, the truth can often be scarier than fiction. So with that in mind, I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 horror films based on true events. Number 10, The Haunting in Connecticut. The Haunting in Connecticut is a pretty forgettable horror movie that was released all the way back in 2009. It follows a character called Matt Campbell, who is a teenager undergoing treatment for an aggressive cancer. His parents, hoping to make life easier, move to a property closer to the treatment center so their son doesn't have to travel far for his therapy. However, it turns out that the new Campbell abode used to be a funeral home and that some dark entities are on the loose there. Now, the story told in the flick is apparently based on the alleged true life story of the Snedeker family, who in 1986 moved to Connecticut to help their son who was similarly undergoing cancer treatment. In their new home, it said they experienced a dark and terrifying haunting that resulted in them contacting infamous demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren, who took on the case. And you can bet your ass that is not the last time we hear those names on this list. After this, the family undertook several interviews in the media, and eventually a book was written and released by Ray Garton all about these events. Although the family stand by their terrible ordeal, there are understandably some skeptics who question the extent of what truly happened behind closed doors. Number 9. Annabelle. As most horror fans know, this creepy film is about a haunted doll called Annabelle. It's kinda in the title, and you can't miss it. In the film, the doll itself is a tall porcelain-faced creation in a white dress with creepy features, and yet the story that is alleged to have occurred in real life has the dark events taking root in a cute, vintage Raggedy Ann doll. Now, the true events were said to have occurred in the 70s when a 25-year-old nurse called Deirdre Bernard was given the large Raggedy Ann doll from her mother. Bernard lived with 2 roommates at the time, and soon after the toy was given to them, the roommates began to notice unusual scary things happening, such as the doll being found in a different position to how they had left it. Apparently, they also began finding notes around their home that appeared to be written by the hand of a child. The infamous account details the fact that the friends gave what they thought was a child ghost permission to enter the doll. After these events occurred, ding ding ding, you guessed it, famous demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren were called in to help. They worked their magic, and now the Annabelle doll lives happily behind a case in the Warrens Museum. Number 8. The Rite. The Rite is a creepy supernatural horror that was originally released in 2011. Starring Sir Anthony Hopkins, it follows the trail of a young priest who has been enlisted to train as an exorcist in the Vatican. In order to learn more about the Rite and how it is applied, the priest has to attend real exorcisms and learn on the job. What follows is a sadly uninspired 2-hour movie that might surprise you is also allegedly based on true events. The film is said to be based on the true life accounts of a priest called Father Gary Thomas. A book was released first in 2009 titled The Rite: The Making of a Modern Day Exorcist, and while the movie does differ significantly, both do focus a great deal on learning about the exorcism process as well as true life exorcist cases. Number 7. The Exorcism of Emily Rose. The Exorcism of Emily Rose is a horror fan favorite. Directed by Scott Derrickson, it is based on the allegedly true-life account of Anneliese Michel, a German student who was said to have been possessed by several demons, who was born in Germany in the 1960s and raised in a Catholic household. It was apparently at the age of 16 that Anneliese first blacked out and could not recall the event after coming round. It was not long before similar events occurred and even what appeared to be seizures. At first, Anneliese was told that she had epilepsy, but soon after, the family came to believe that their daughter fit the criteria for demonic possession. Therefore, after some time, the young woman underwent a series of dramatic and traumatic exorcisms, and these events eventually inspired a book and then later the much-loved Hollywood film. Number 6. The Exorcist. Most fans, of course, will have watched the iconic classic release of The Exorcist, which was unleashed into the world in 1973 to much excitement and religious fervor. It was directed by William Friedkin and starred Linda Blair as the girl who was eventually tormented and possessed by a demon, and it is of course also famously based on true events. Now, there are some differences and changes to the accounts depicted in the flick and the real events that are alleged to have happened in the 1940s. For instance, instead of a young girl, the true story is said to have happened to a young boy known as Roland Doe. He was only 13 at the time, and distressing experiences began happening to him after the death of his aunt. The story goes that the people in his life thought that he was possessed by demons, and so he underwent exorcisms to rid him of the supposed dark torment that he was experiencing, resulting in a novel inspired by those experiences and then, of course, the movie adaptation. Number 5, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. As you might have guessed, the based on the true story label can be stretched extremely thin when making a horror movie, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of the biggest offenders in this regard. While an absolute masterpiece directed by Tobe Hooper and starring Marilyn Burns, Edwin Neal, and Paul Partain, as part of its marketing blitz at the time, it was said that the events depicted in the production were based on true events. And this is true, as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is based on the crimes of serial killer Ed Gein. Ed Gein himself was known as the Butcher of Plainfield and was responsible for the deaths of several people, as well as having exhumed bodies from local graveyards to create keepsakes and trophies made of their body parts. And that's the part that acted as the explicit basis of the murderous family in this movie. Of course, the crimes of this man had a lasting impact on the world and culture as we know it, and have inspired several books and films, including the likes of Psycho, which have been twisted to fit whatever similarly twisted narrative that the filmmakers conjure up. Number 4, The Black Dahlia. The 2006 dark and creepy flick, The Black Dahlia, was directed by Brian De Palma and starred Josh Hartnett, Scarlett Johansson, and Hilary Swank. And yep, that is a stacked deck of talent right there, but unfortunately the film received mixed reviews upon release, though it did become notable as it takes details from certain events that did occur in real life. See, the film is based on the novel by James Ellroy and touches upon the true life murder of Elizabeth Short, a crime which to this day has never been solved. Although the film certainly takes a detour and adds some fictional drama into the mix, the frightening case of Elizabeth Short is the foundation for the movie. Now, Short herself was a 22-year-old woman who was found cut in half with her face slashed in 1947. The case sent a shiver down the nation and globally, and yet it was never solved. It remains one of the most chilling and creepy cases of all time, and the 2006 movie uses the account as a catalyst for the production. Number 3, The Possession. And look at that, we have yet another possession movie on this list, and one that is so uninspired that even the title itself can't be asked. However, it is notable because this movie centers around a young girl whose behavior changes dramatically after her dad purchases an old box for her from an estate sale. And that's interesting because The Possession itself is based, allegedly, on true life accounts. Now, somewhat of a legendary story, the box was originally sold on eBay. It contained hair, a dried flower, pennies, a slab of granite, and a cup, and the buyer, who won the auction on the website, soon began to experience strange and unsettling experiences after taking the item into his home. Now, to be fair, so would I if I dropped big bucks in a bag full of pennies, but after this, it was soon discovered that the original seller also had terrifying experiences of his own and had sold it to rid himself of the cursed object. So, all of the events allegedly caused by the box were mixed in with some drama and poetic license to create this pretty rote movie. Number 2, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Back for one more go-round, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It is the third flick in this franchise, once again starring Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson. Like the first 2 Conjuring flicks, the most creepy thing about it is that it's based on true events. In this case, a real-life case file from Ed and Lorraine Warren's own life. The true account of The Devil Made Me Do It is traced back to Connecticut in the 80s, where the Glatzel family became convinced that their son David was being tormented and haunted by a demonic entity. Ed and Lorraine Warren were called in and set about helping the young family as events became more twisted and frightening for all involved. The main ingredients that make up most of the film are said to be based on events that actually occurred, and the film itself touches upon rumors of a curse, Satanism, and an exorcism. All of these dark themes were present in the real-life case. Number 1, Compliance. Compliance is a 2012 thriller that explores some very dark themes. It's a troubling film in which a young woman is subjected to psychological and physical torment at her place of employment. Now, the movie makes for uncomfortable viewing as the central character is forced to do dark and disturbing things, and what's shocking is that much of what occurs in the flick actually happened in real life, specifically to a McDonald's waitress who was abused as part of a prank that went to horrific places. The case sent shockwaves across the world as the cruel events were described in detail, and the case itself was described as one of the cruelest hoaxes ever, and it's not hard to see why when you dig into the details. The film itself is a creepy, troubling, and uncomfortable experience, and so to watch it knowing that someone actually went through similar things does make for a shocking reality check. So that's our list. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Are there any other terrifying movies based on true events that I missed off here that interest you? And what do you think about this lot? Let me know, and while you're down there, could you please give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to whatculture.com for more lists and news like this on the regular. Even if you don't though, I've been Josh. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.